I never imagined my life would quiet down the way it did after my wife passed, nor that some part of me would still wait for her voice in the early mornings. The farm in 1912 felt heavier without her laughter echoing against the wooden beams. New machines arrived every season, roaring like iron beasts, ready to replace every pair of calloused hands. Yet even with progress marching across the country, the working folk around here stayed invisible, bending to the wind, without a sound. I lived in that silence for years, convinced it was all I deserved, until the day she stepped out of the wagon, carrying nothing but a small suitcase and an ache she tried hard to hide. Before we delve deeper into this story, subscribe to the channel and let us know in the comments where you're watching from. Her name was Eleanor, and the first thing I noticed was how carefully she looked at the ground, as if the world had taught her not to take up space. They said she'd been sent here after a cruel twist of fate, dismissed by people who never cared to know her worth. I told myself her presence meant nothing, that I simply needed help around the house and with the children. But there was something in her eyes, a spark too soft to ignore, that reminded me life could stir again even in soil long left untouched. My children were polite, yet guarded, still wounded by the loss they carried quietly. They watched her like one watches a stranger who might not stay. Days passed, and small moments began to bloom between us, so discreet they almost went unnoticed. A shared glance while hanging laundry, her voice smoothing the edges of the children's fears, the way she paused before speaking, as if testing whether her thoughts were welcome. Back then, a woman could work herself to the bone and still be unseen, swallowed by a world that preferred her silent. But Eleanor, even in her timid ways, seemed to resist disappearing. Something told me there was more beneath her calm facade, truths waiting to surface. And if you think this already feels intense, just wait until you hear what I found inside her diary. The days that followed unfolded with a gentleness I hadn't expected, as if life were quietly rearranging itself when I wasn't looking. Eleanor moved through the house with a care that softened every corner, and little by little my children sought her company the way flowers turn toward sunlight. I kept telling myself it was nothing more than gratitude, nothing more than routine. But there were moments when her presence settled too deeply in my heart. I questioned myself constantly, torn between loyalty to what I had lost and the undeniable warmth growing inside me. And if everything I learned about moving on was wrong, what if the heart simply made its own rules? Eleanor tried to maintain distance, though I could sense her hesitation like a fragile thread stretched between us. Something in her past held her back, something unspoken that lingered in the way she avoided certain questions. Yet even with those shadows, she brought a stillness into our home, the kind that makes broken places feel safe again. People in town, however, were quick to whisper, judging her for daring to work freely, for being a woman without a protector or a name they considered respectable. Their words drifted back to us like cold winds, reminding me how harsh the world could be to anyone who dared to rise above its expectations. One evening, after a particularly bitter comment from a neighbor reached her ears, Eleanor shut herself in the pantry, overwhelmed not by the insult, but by the memory it awakened. I found her seated on a wooden crate, hands trembling, breath unsteady. In that moment, something in me shifted, an urgency deeper than fear, stronger than doubt. I wanted to shield her, not out of duty, but because caring for her had become as natural as breathing. She lifted her eyes to mine, and there were words trapped there, words neither of us dared to speak. That night, as the house settled into silence, I heard her whisper my name for the first time, and everything I thought I understood collapsed around me. I realized after hearing my name in her trembling voice that my place was no longer behind the walls I had built, but beside Eleanor, offering the kind of protection that lifts rather than confines. From that day on, I made sure she knew this farm was her safe ground, a place where her past could loosen its hold. She began taking small steps toward rebuilding her confidence, helping neighbors, teaching other women skills she had once hidden. Slowly, the community changed because she dared to show what quiet strength looked like. I watched her become the heart of this place, and in her growth, I found my own healing. Our feelings unfolded in a way I can only call steady and honest, shaped by shared mornings, laughter around the dinner table, and the trust that grew each time we dared to speak openly. Love arrived like a slow sunrise, respectful and patient, asking nothing except truth. I often thought about time, how it steals, how it restores, how it refuses to obey anyone's expectations. The heart doesn't follow calendars, it follows courage. With Eleanor, every sorrow I once carried softened into something far more hopeful. She didn't replace what I lost. She showed me life still held room for more. I never planned to share this story because some memories feel too sacred to expose, but stories of renewal deserve to be told. Today, we stand not just as partners, but as a family shaped by resilience and kindness. Our home is filled with laughter, work, seasons, and the legacy she built with bare hands and unwavering grace. And sometimes, when I see her walking across the fields, I remember the quiet girl who stepped off that wagon, unaware she was about to change all our lives. If this touched your heart, stay with us. Like, comment, share, and subscribe, so these stories keep reaching those who need them. And keep watching until the very end. It helps more than you imagine.